Okay, we've experienced some technical difficulties, but we're going to try this one more time. I'm Nancy Mader, Director of Transition Services for the Federation for Children with Special Needs. Looks like we're live now. And my guest is Glenn Gabbard with the MAICEI program. You guys were like totally sweaty from having technical difficulties. So today we're going to talk about MAICEI. I think this is a great topic. It's a great topic around transition, and I think everyone's going to get such great information today. So I'm going to let Glenn introduce himself and talk a little bit about MAICEI, and then we'll get into questions.
Great. It's a pleasure to talk with folks. Let me tell you a little bit about the history or why MAICEI was created. MAICEI is the Massachusetts Inclusive Concurrent Enrollment Initiative, and it is part of the services provided to the families of the Commonwealth through the Department of Higher Education. And it was started in 2008 as a program that was serving a very important population in the state, and those are students with 18 to 22 with intellectual disabilities. And these are students who have lots of potential for benefiting from going to college, but they were not, there was no real pathway for them to get to college at that time. Right. And so MAICEI was created as a way to bring those students who are interested in coming to college, who have not passed the MCAS, and who are interested in attending one of our public colleges and universities. And so at the time when it was created, those students typically would spend time in a transition program at the high school level, right, getting ready for adult services, adult life after they turn 22. Right. And the people who created the program really felt that what better place to provide those supports and that preparation than a college campus? Because college campuses for all students 18 to 22 are places where they're all getting ready for adult life. And it's really important also for students with intellectual disabilities to have as much exposure and opportunity to learn about how to navigate the world. And what better way to do that than by learning from their non-disabled peers who are also learning how to do that in a place that's designed to help people learn how to be adults. Right. So MAICEI was set up at that point. It is a partnership program that funds public colleges and universities and in partnership with local school districts. And so we have 15 programs across the state, all of them at public universities, public community colleges, or public state universities. Okay. And they are partnership programs with local school districts. So as I mentioned before, we serve students from two categories. The biggest and most important category, well, not most important, but the largest category are students who are 18 to 22, who have an intellectual disability and who have not passed the MCAS and are not likely to pass the MCAS. Right. They may be taking the alternative assessment. There may be some other way that they are certifying their attendance at high school. The second population are students who are 18 to 22 who have passed the MCAS, but they've done so with a lot of effort. They may have taken it lots of different times, 5 or 6 times, and they may have really struggled through that process, eventually passing it, but there's still some concern on the part of the student and the student's family and the team that there might be some benefit from continuing that transitional experience in high school. Right. And so those students are often students on the autism spectrum. Typically, those are students who have some outstanding social goals. Right. And MAICEI is a great place to work on that kind of skill development. Right. Yeah. So I have a question, and this is one that comes to me frequently. For those students who have passed the MCAS but need maybe a year or two more of high school services, do all of the MAICEI programs accept those students who have passed the MCAS and are on a high school diploma track, or are there only certain programs that have slots for those students? It varies from program to program. More often than not, if you're a student with an intellectual disability and you have not passed the MCAS, there's usually a clearer pathway for you. Right. If you are a student who falls into the category that you're describing, that is, there's still it's a longer pathway to high school certification and you have passed the MCAS, and you need some transitional experiences. Right. It depends on the program and the eligibility processes at each of the campuses. I'm glad to say this, but each of the 15 campuses that we sponsor has slightly different application processes. And that's because we want to try and serve the communities within the location of those institutions better.
Right.
And so the best thing to do if you're interested in a particular program is to look at our website, and you can at the website you can get the number of the local coordinator from the programs that are closest to you, and then talk with that coordinator. I am also happy to talk with people as well, so I talk with families very frequently and happy to continue to do that if they have questions.
So each program is localized, so each program is different, and do they provide different services?
They do, although all of the services are organized around 4 key areas. So all of the students who participate in MAICEI are taking academic classes that are consistent with their interests. And those classes are classes that are for all students at that university. So one of the things that is really important to know about MAICEI is that the I in MAICEI means inclusive, and we do mean inclusive. We mean academic experiences that are for all students at that institution. And so academics is important. The social life of the college and the university is very important as well. You probably remember from your own experience in college that you may have learned as much outside of the classroom as you did within it. And so we want to make sure that MAICEI students are part of the social mainstream. So our students are part of clubs. They do performances on campuses with classes in performance arts. They attend lectures. They go to the gym. Places where students hang out. And we really think that's a critical part of what MAICEI offers. I should say, sometimes I've heard people say that the benefit of MAICEI is primarily social. And I actually think, I'm not sure I agree with that. I think that students benefit from the social activities as much as they do from the academic work that they're engaged in. But they also benefit from the career development options that we provide. And so what we're trying to do is help students in our programs get access to all of the different services that are available on a college campus. So career development, counseling services, athletic services, the cafeteria, the range of things, the library, all the different things that are offered at a college campus. We want to make sure that students in the program are using those services. And more important, or as important, I think, is that those campus services are welcoming to these students. Because I think one of the important values of MAICEI is that it helps colleges to be better places because they're learning how to serve lots of different kinds of students as well. The fourth area, and I do think this is probably the most important to me, having talked with families who've had their sons or daughters participate, is a focus on self-determination and individual decision-making. And we have seen students over the course of just a semester blossom from students who were very reliant on adults in their lives to make their decisions to becoming much more independent decision makers. And informing their families, for example, of things that the families never knew that the student really wanted to do. So it's just it's really cool to see that sort of level of development. And families, many families have told me that they have been just amazed at how independent their sons or daughters have become, mostly because they've been given the opportunity to do that in a safe environment. So those are the 4 areas that we work in, and all of the programs that we offer have services and supports that are organized in those 4 areas. It's a little different from how those services look, depends on where you are, but each of them does offer those areas of focus.
And there's a few programs now that have on-campus living.
That's correct. Well, we actually have just one.
Just one?
At Bridgewater State, we have a number of students who are living in the dorms. This is I think we're going on our 3rd year now of residence life experiences for students. And by the end of this year, we'll probably have about 10 students in that program. Yeah, it's a very cool experience. I think
Yeah.
for them, I've talked with the students and their families, and it's like one of the things as a parent of a young adult with a disability, I think we often hear people talk about being ready for the adult world. And what this experience does for individuals is it provides a real world experience.
Right.
So these students, for example, living in the dorms or not living in the dorms, but participating in our programs, they are doing things in the real world. I mean, this is the real world for them, but it's protected in a way that's protected for all college students. And we have advisors who work with the students just as a non-disabled student would have an advisor.
Right.
The supports are a little bit more intensive. And the students also are benefiting from the special education services that are provided by their school districts as well. So although we have many, sometimes families will ask about how many days does a student come to the college?
Right.
And that varies from student to student.
Okay.
We have students who come for 5 days a week and some who come for probably 3 is probably the minimum.
Okay.
On the other days that if a student is not coming to college, they are having career development experiences in the community that the school district is sponsoring. So, but I should say as well, we have many of our programs that are now offering on-campus internships.
Right.
So the students who are there for 5 days are likely combining an internship on campus with taking courses, with hanging out, and also doing other things that they want to do. And some of them are living on the campus.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is the benefit to these colleges of hosting a MAICEI program? What would you say is the greatest benefit?
Yeah, I think, one of the challenges, I think, in my conversations with programs that don't have programs is that because this is a new audience for higher education, people don't really understand, a lot of faculty and staff are not familiar with the idea of why a college would do this.
Right.
And one of the benefits is that it does help services and supports for those colleges become more family friendly, more disability services friendly.
Right.
And because of the larger number of students with disabilities in general on campuses, those are students who don't have intellectual disabilities but may qualify for ADA services on those campuses. It makes for a more inclusive environment. Some of the biggest fans of the program have been faculty who were very resistant to the idea altogether, saying that, they thought this wasn't their job, that there must be other services. But when they've been convinced to have students in their classes, they've come out being some of our best advocates.
Right. That's great.
Talking about how some of our MAICEI students are really strong role models for the other students.
Right.
They come to class on time, they do their assignments, they participate in class. So they've been very strong role models for the other students in the class. But I think the faculty are also saying that they learned a lot about how to teach differently and teach using principles of universal design, for example, which are not only effective for our MAICEI students, but for everybody in the class. So it makes colleges better, I think, in general.
Good.
And I think we see these programs growing out across the country now. There's over 200 of them. I think one of the across the United States. One of the exciting things for us in Massachusetts is this is one of the few programs that serves students while they are in transition, not after.
Right.
And so we are really trying to maximize the use of a learning environment for young adults, all young adults, and trying to bring that to bear on the learning that it will benefit a population of students that probably wouldn't have ever had access, right?
Right.
So I think that's a really special thing. Also that we are fully inclusive. There are more programs, transitional programs that are in college campus settings, but many more of them are segregated programs where students are in cohorts and they are only learning with other students with disabilities. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're really proud of the fact that we are trying to use the whole experience in higher ed including other students who are going to college as learning resources for these students. Yeah.
Right. I think that's great.
And, I was on the phone yesterday with 2 undergraduates from one of our programs, and they wanted to talk to me about how they could convince another university that doesn't have a program how to build a program because of how important it was to them in their own learning.
Wow.
So it was such a great thing. I was getting goosebumps talking to these 20-year-old students about, what could they do to help build the initiative out. And they, one of them is a special education major, a psychology major. The other one is in adaptive PE or health science. I mean, it makes good sense that we have young adults who are interested in serving students in the field. So that's actually one other benefit of the program to the colleges, is that we have, at some of the research universities, we have students who are doing research on factors affecting students with intellectual disabilities, and they are able to work with our students, not in a clinical way, but just to learn how to be with them and support them. So I think it makes that research better. But we also have prospective teachers now who have met young adults who are living with them in the dorm, and it makes their experience as prospective teachers better and richer. So I think it's a win-win all around.
Right. I agree. Yeah. I definitely agree. So how many MAICEI programs are in the state right now, and how can you find out if they're connected to your high school? Is my first question.
Yeah. So there are 15 programs. We have 2 programs in the UMass system, UMass Amherst and UMass Boston. We have 4 in the state university system, Bridgewater State, Salem State, Framingham State, and Bridgewater. I think I covered. Oh, Westfield. I'm sorry, I didn't mention Westfield. And then the rest of our programs are in community colleges. Right. And I'm going to leave one out if I try to name them all.
No, you don't have to name them all.
The best place to look is our webpage. And if you go to just Google Department of Higher Education, Massachusetts, and MAICEI, and our page will come up. Okay. And you'll get a pretty good summary of what our programs are all about, and then contact information for each of the programs. Okay. It also lists the school districts that are currently participating with our campuses. And a question I often get is, well, what if my school district is not participating and I'm interested in this? So being a partner with one of our existing programs is not complicated. It simply involves calling up the coordinator for that university or college program and finding out about the program first. And then I think talking about opportunities with your special education team. Okay. Expressing your interest in participating in the program. And then the school district will contact the college or university, and if everything is lined up, they can establish a partnership and start taking students. Okay. It is important to know that because it's a partnership program, the Department of Higher Education, where I work, gives grants to the colleges to support the programs. The programs can only exist if they have partners. So we don't fund a college by itself. It has to have at least 2 school district partners. Many of our programs have far more than 10. I think we have programs that have 30 different partners, school district partners. The school district partners can be partners they can be partners at different programs, so it's not like you're limited to one. Good. And what we do ask is that school district partners define how they are going to support the student while the student is attending. So typically, what a school district will do is provide transportation to and from the school district to the campus, and then also provide educational support, usually in the form of what we're calling an educational coach or a teaching assistant. That's usually a one-on-one person who comes with the student to support the student while the student is on campus. Okay. I do want to say we do encourage as much as possible independence of the student on the campus. So if those supports that the ed coach is providing can be weaned away so that the student is relying on campus-based supports, that is what we would prefer. Okay. And we do have most of our programs now have peer mentoring programs where non-disabled students are working to provide peer support, tutoring, any of that kind of thing, the kind of support that an ed coach would typically provide. So we have had students who come with an ed coach, and after the first day, they'll say, I don't think I need that support anymore. And we honor those decisions, right? I mean, if the student says, we talk that over, we discuss why the student is saying that. And if we think that's a good decision, we let the student do that. If the student needs the support later, then we can renegotiate that. And then, but we do rely on the school districts to provide those supports for us, for the students.
Another question I get is, do some of these students matriculate into college as a general ed student?
Yes. Yeah, I think not as many as because the program is really designed. The goals that the students have in MAICEI are not necessarily the same goals that a non-disabled student would have. So they're not necessarily seeking degrees. Most of our students are auditing courses. They have goals that are defined in their person-centered plan, which we figure out how to match up our services and supports to revolve around that plan, the goals of that plan. That doesn't mean, though, that students can't move on into degree seeking status. And we have had students who have moved on. And we have students who are getting close to getting degrees. Some of them have already gotten certificates, career certificates, and that sort of thing. I think that really reinforces one of the key elements about the program is it is very individualized. So when people come to me and say, well, I'd like to visit a program, I will say, well, it's hard to see. What you may see is one student doing this and a student in the distance going off to the gym. And we don't offer experiences that are group experiences because the whole purpose of the program is to get students involved in the mainstream of their communities on the campus. And
that's great. Well, before we wind down, how can listeners get more information? And we'll also post this in the comments under the live stream, but how can people get more information?
There's a variety of different ways. I should say, I want to acknowledge that the legislature has been very supportive of the program. And so, I want to just appreciate the fact that the community and advocates like you and families are really thinking about this program. So there are resources that I think will help us support building out more programs across the Commonwealth. That being said, I'm happy to talk with people myself, and my contact information is on the website. But I would go to the website to learn more about the program. There are also 3 new videos that we've just posted yesterday on our website. One is for families, one is for school district personnel, and one is for students themselves.
We can put those links in the comments.
That'd be great. Yeah. And I think those are a good way to get started. And then, of course, I think we could also connect you up with other families who've had the experience and the school districts and colleges that are sponsoring a program.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope that everyone enjoyed listening. And we'll be back with Linked Over Lunch soon. Thank you.
Thank you.